Glass blowing, when I have an audience, it's really fun, it's interactive. You really get to show the whole process of glass making. So for me, it's quite exciting because it's something that I do passionately every day, and a lot of people don't know what's involved. So when you really get to show the art of making glass live, it's a really good satisfaction because you get to share this beautiful medium with the public. So it's something I've always been excited about, is sharing the medium and how it's done. So for me, it's pretty exciting to do that. Looks like we got a lot of people here getting ready to watch some glass blowing. I'm getting ready to make a nice custom beer mug. A lot of the times when we deal with the public as an artist, you interact with the public, and you create some visions, either be my vision or be their vision. But you can do that before their eyes and actually make something that they could cherish forever. And it's a one-of-a-kind piece. All the pieces that I interact with are handmade, so they're all one-of-a-kind pieces. So it's cool to see the interaction going. All right, so I just took my first gather of glass. It's actually my second gather of glass. I created a bubble, my first gather, let it cool down. Then I gathered again into a furnace that's 2,200 degrees. And in that furnace is about, we got a couple 100 pounds of molten silica sand, which is glass, crystal. So it's silica-based sand. So got my second gather. Now I'm letting that second gather heat up that core to the bubble before we apply this bit of color. So my assistant brought me over a bit of color, and what I'm doing here is actually laying down this geometric pattern, kind of like almost like a tribal theme drinking vessel that we got going on here. So that's colored. I think we got like an olive green that's being applied at the moment at 2,000 degrees. It looks orange because it's really hot and molten. So I'm laying down this color, and I got so much time before I run out of heat to get my design on there. So now I'm reheating into the heating chamber there, and I'm gonna melt all that fresh color that's on the surface and roll it on this metal table. This is called the margarine plate. It's used for cooling and shaping the glass. So depending on how you shape and cool, it's gonna expand differently while you blow into the vessel. So you seen there I had a lot of heat, and I was swinging the blowpipe and getting the vessel to expand and elongate. And now I'm blowing the vessel out. Actually, my assistant is, while I'm directing the flow of the air into the vessel to get a certain shape. I got to do that using my various tools and using my assistant to blow into the pipe while I direct the air into the glass. So you can see that I'm using my jacks, and my jacks are one of the main tools that glass blower are called jacks. And I'm just using that to cool the surface so the glass is expanding wherever it's hotter. So it looks like I'm heating the bottom part of the vessel using some gravity and getting that vessel to elongate. It's going to give me a taller form. And sometimes in glass blowing we use wet newspaper. We use that for shaping and cooling as well. So you'll see me using that wet newspaper and giving that kind of more of a cylinder shape. Now, if I don't use the paper and have someone blow on it, the bubble wants to naturally blow round. So what I'm doing is controlling the shape of the vessel. So you can see the vessel is glowing orange on the tip there, which means it's a lot hotter at that end. So it's expanding more while we're putting air into the piece. So little by little, I'm getting this shaping done. You can only do so much to the vessel before you run out of heat, and you've got to continue to hold at least 1,100 degrees while you're working on the glass, and heat up certain sections of the piece to get it to expand at those points. So I'm getting that nice flare on the bottom of the piece. I don't know if you seen the drawing earlier, but I did a chalk drawing on the floor there, and I'm just shooting for that shape and design and kind of visualizing while I'm making it and making certain calls. It looks like I'm getting ready for, we're going to get ready to put a foot on the piece, which is the base of the vessel. It's either, the base, or sometimes we call it a foot, and that's what the piece stands on. So that's going to be a separate bit of glass. I'm going to pick that up right on the end of the piece there. So that's going to be what the piece sits on. So it's the foot of the piece. Now that glass is maybe about 500 to 1,000 degrees hotter than the rest of the piece. So I got a moment before it cools down to give it a nice shaping, kind of a nice little pedestal foot. And that's going to give it a really nice feel. It's going to be bottom heavy, which is the mug's going to sit really nice. And that looks like it went on really nicely. So before we move on to the next process, we're going to get ready to do a transfer. So we're going to attach another pipe, solid rod, onto the bottom of the piece, and we're going to apply a little bit of water up at the neckline and break it off the blowpipe, which is going to expose the opening. So we're basically just switching the piece on a 180 degree axis. We just flip the piece around, and now we're working on the opening. So you're going to see me heat the top of the piece, which is the opening, and get that nice and hot and molten. And I'm going to use some of that heat and actually get rid of some of the material up on top and kind of make it a thinner opening. So we got thicker glass throughout the piece, and we got a nice thin lip going on. So for like a drinking vessel, you want a nice thin, comfortable lip to sip on. So this is the process that we're going through to get that lip nice and thin. I'm just thinning out the glass using heat and my tweezers. I'm going to tweeze out the glass and give it a little shaping there before I do the cut. A little bit more tweezing action there. And it's kind of helping that form that I'm going for as well. So you can see that I'm getting rid of all that material up there. That's all thicker glass that I'm not really using. So I got my assistant over here. He's heating up that top section. At the same time, I'm always aware of the heat throughout the whole piece. If the piece gets cold, too cold, it would break or fall off the pipe. All right, you're just seeing that I just used a special tool called a soffietta, and it's an Italian term for a little blower, and it helps you blow into the glass while you're off the blowpipe. So it's going to help expand in those certain areas that I'm working on. So this is a multi-process where you got to just do a little bit at a time and work on certain sections of the piece. So there's a lot of focus heating on certain areas of the vessel to get it to change shape in those areas. So you can see me just flaring the lip open, getting a nice opening on this mug. A little wet newspaper is also used to get that final shaping and cool the glass down. All right, so this person that I was making the mug for, they wanted a little custom design on the side of the mug. So what I'm using is a piece of cane, this red cane that I've made before I started the piece. So just a long piece of glass that's already got the color in it. And I use it while it's cold and apply it to the surface for design using a torch. Okay, so here goes one of the first handles. This piece is going to have 2 handles on it. So the handles happen quickly, and you got one shot to put them on there before they cool down, and you can't really give it any more shaping. Now what I'm going to try to do is try to match that handle to the other side to have 2 matching handles. And you know, you got to work with your assistant, and you guys got to work together as a team and visualize what's happening so you guys could work together and end up with a nice piece. So that handle looks like it went on really nice. Like I said, it's got to go on at the perfect temperature at the perfect time to make that happen. It looks like it went on good. The sizing looks just about right. So I was trying to match both handles to get them to match up as best as possible, doing it by hand and eye, and a lot of just experience. And that's one of the things, it's like when you do a mug, it's like you got one shot to put the handle on and make it a nice piece, or start all over and get some better handles on the piece. It just takes a lot of practice. So there's the piece. Both handles are on there. I'm gonna break it off the blowpipe, actually the punny rod, but just this is a solid rod. Just with a little bit of water, I stressed that connection point and tapped the pipe, and it released off the iron. And now I'm doing a little torch action on the bottom there to get rid of the burr, because it leaves a little sharp mark, so that shows it was handmade. You torch it, you flame polish it, and put it in the oven for about 10 to 15 hours of annealing. And it's called the annealing cycle of glass, where you cool the glass down slowly. There's a formula, it's like maybe about 15 hours for every inch of thickness in the glass. So that's the annealing process. Anything that's handmade has got to go through this process. So usually we work all day, we set the annealers at a certain temperature, bring down the temperature slowly, and then the next day we would open the doors and see what we made the day before.